Meditation is not difficult. Unraveling the decades of conditioning and reacting to thoughts and thinking about thoughts, that is what is difficult. Meditation is no different than going to the gym. In order to lift the heavy weights, you have to be consistent. You can't expect to be able to quiet the mind without practice, because we spend so much of our lives following thoughts that it's going to take some rewiring of our brain to stop that bad habit. And so meditation is essentially the process of breaking that habit, to not react to our thoughts whenever they arise, and to develop the power of focus, as well as to connect to our true state as consciousness. And so some of the most important things we can do to help us in our meditation practice is to not judge ourselves. This is one of the core ideas of meditation, because when we judge ourselves, we are engaging in thoughts. We are feeding these thoughts. And when we feed thoughts, we give them life. And when we give them life, they have more power over us, because we are giving them our power. Mooji once said, "No thought has any power, but it is through our identification and belief in the thought that we give our power to the thought." There is no such thing as a good or bad meditation session. The fact that you practiced, even if it's for only a few minutes, is a success. That is a win. And so the more you focus on the process, being consistent, rather than the outcome, that is how you can sustain this practice for the long term. Because it's not about the result, it's about who you become. And when you judge yourself for not being good enough, or, why can't I quiet the mind, that adds a lot of stress and tension to the process, and it makes it less enjoyable. The more negative experiences you have with something, the more you are going to stop doing that thing, or being around that thing, or engaging in that experience. If you go to the gym every day and you hate going to the gym, you are never going to engage with it long enough to see any real results. This is what a lot of people do. They start going to the gym for a while, they're really motivated at the beginning, and then the motivation goes away. And then it's like a struggle to get to the gym. And then eventually they fall off, and so they were never consistent enough to see any gains. And so they have to start over. It's like running around in circles, getting nowhere. You have to have positive relationship with the experience, with the practice, in order to sustain it for the long term. This is especially true with work, which is why they say, do what you love. Because in order to be successful in life, you have to be able to do the same thing over long periods of time. And if you don't love what you do, well then, good luck. Because what is inevitable is a kind of depression, is a kind of feeling like a slave, because you're forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. And slowly but surely the fire of life leaves you, the passion of life. And that is no way to live. Meditation is an enjoyable practice. In fact, it's probably the thing that I enjoy most in life, at least in the top 3. Sitting alone in a room, in a dark room, in a silent room, doing nothing. Most people can't even sit alone without their phone. So cultivating the proper attitude toward meditation is so important in order to have a positive relationship with it. But you can't have a positive relationship with something if you're beating yourself up about it, or if you're thinking negatively about it. There is no wrong or bad meditation. You are successful the moment you show up. End of story. Period. The next thing that is somewhat related to this is to release all expectations of what meditation is supposed to do for us, or what it's about. Because when we have expectations, we think that things are going to go a certain way, and if they don't, then there is conflict, there is tension, there is resistance. We want things to go one way, and when they don't, then we get upset or frustrated or irritated, which is the exact opposite of meditation, kind of. Meditation is about allowing things to be as they are in non-resistance, in non-judgment and non-attachment of whatever experiences are arising. It is a state of absolute surrender to the present moment. And so the whole game is that as you continue to surrender more and more, deeper and deeper things within you will emerge to try and trigger you and bring you out of the present moment. One may look at this as like unraveling our karma. Our karma is running off, like Ram Dass would put it. And the more we can remain present as this happens, that karma dissolves in the light of consciousness, in the fire of our true being. And when this happens, we become more and more free. Free of these attachments, free of the conditioning, and we become lighter. We become more joyful, more at peace. Every time a thought comes up, think of it as a good thing, because that thought is precisely the opportunity to become more free. If there wasn't so many distractions, if there wasn't so many thoughts going on, what would be the point of meditation? You wouldn't need it. Meditation is not running away from thoughts. It is facing them. It is going through them in a way. But more truly, it's about observing them from the place of non-attached awareness, in which the light of our consciousness can dissolve whatever comes up. When we take our reaction away from the thoughts, we take our energy away, and so they begin to die, because they have no power without us giving them our power. And the more and more you practice, the more you will get in touch with the subtle aspects of reality. Things will get more and more sensitive. What you'll find is that you could be going throughout your day, and it's easier and easier to watch as your thoughts kind of get out of hand, and so you can stop them quicker because you see the suffering, the tension that they create. Normal people are often completely unconscious of the never-ending thought stream throughout their day. They're never aware of the fact that these thoughts create emotional states, and these emotional states and these thoughts run their life, and things happen in the world and they don't understand why. But they are the ones creating these things to happen, because life is coming through us. Our experience is happening through us. It's being filtered through our minds. So whatever information is in the mind, that is what we are going to experience. We are going to project that out onto the world, and that is what we see. That is why Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so meditation is the act of becoming more conscious, seeing reality as it is, rather than seeing our own inner projections. Now, in the beginning, you might want to have a set meditation practice that you can do at the same time every day. I usually like to meditate myself awake in the morning and meditate myself to sleep at night, or if I take a nap. This is the easiest way to connect to the inner presence, and it's convenient. You don't really have to go out of your way to, or spend a lot of time doing this practice. Eventually, once you get in the habit of watching your thoughts, of remaining as the non-attached observer, then you can meditate all day wherever you are, because meditation is the practice of non-reaction, and you don't need to be sitting in a lotus position in a quiet room in order to not react. In fact, I would say what most people think of meditation is actually the meditation practice. But the true meditation happens out in your daily life when things are going on, because that is when you will be tested. And so don't judge yourself, release your expectations, allow things to be as they are, and simply observe what is arising in your experience, without necessarily needing to label things or judge things or make a story about what is happening. And so the easiest way to get into the present moment and actually meditate is simply by focusing on your breath. Shocking. For me, the breath is the second thing I use, but my primary way of meditating is focusing on the inner presence, the inner spaciousness, which you can do by focusing on the space in between the breaths. And once you can kind of do that well, you can see that, oh, wait a minute, that presence, that spaciousness is there through every breath. It never changes, it never goes away, which is why you can meditate 24/7, because that presence is eternal. The key is to have fun with this and make it an enjoyable practice. So you can also meditate and focus on this point on your forehead. You can meditate on the sounds in the environment. You can meditate on the silence. Because too, even if there are noisy things going on in the environment, there's always this underlying silence that never changes. All noise arises and falls back into that silence. Or you could focus on the individual sounds. The mind cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. So the absence of thought comes when you're able to focus on one thing for long periods of time. And the longer you can focus, the less thoughts will arise. You, in fact, don't even need meditation for this. There are other ways in which you can achieve the same benefit. Meditation and self-inquiry are often linked together, because self-inquiry is the act of questioning who is having these thoughts, who is reacting to these thoughts. When you continuously ask yourself who, you begin to disidentify and separate from your thoughts, and they begin to lose power that way. Because you realize that you are the observer, you are the awareness, you are not the thoughts. But because people identify with their thoughts, they believe in them and they give them power, they become one with the thoughts, and therefore the thoughts have an effect on them. When you separate yourself from your thoughts, the thoughts can come and the thoughts can go, but they don't ever need to actually affect you. Another way is through what is called karma yoga, which is the path of action in Hinduism, the path of selfless service. And this means that throughout your day, you're engaged in helping others, in doing things for others. And why this works is because when you are focused on a task and you are fully present, there will be no thoughts that really become dominant in any way. If there are any thoughts, they kind of immediately just dissolve back into where they came from. So you're in the present moment all day working, you're in the flow state, and that is in itself a type of meditation, which is often why it feels good after a long day's work, because when you are engaged in action, the mind often does not have the excess resources to be thinking all the time. Again, the mind is focused on a particular point, what is right in front of you. And so therefore, it's just not able to be thinking all the time. But the reason that people get so caught up in these mind storms is because they don't move as much as they should. When you're stuck in the same place for long periods of time, especially without moving, all that energy that is typically designated for your body starts to travel up to your brain and begins producing thoughts all the time, which is why you have a pandemic of people with anxiety, with depression, because they are essentially decapitated from their body. They are cut off from the life source, and all that energy is going into producing psychological tension, resistance, stories. And the more those ideas, those thoughts are fed, the more power they have over us and the more energy they steal. Exercise and moving your body is also one of the greatest forms of meditation. Because when the body is exhausted or the body is overwhelmed, the mind cannot think. And what you might find is that meditation might not even be for you. You might enjoy one of these other methods more. And so find what you enjoy most, find what excites you, because when you are excited, when you are inspired, when you enjoy doing something, you can sustain it for the long term and be consistent enough to get the results.